welcome to the Power to Build show, where we explore how builders are reshaping the future of home building with technology, creativity, and grit. I'm Marco.
And I'm Bryan. We're excited to have Alana Tisch on today's show. She's a senior solutions consultant based in Ocala, Florida. She's very experienced in leading, digital transformation at large home builder operations, from sales and construction all the way to customer experience. She's been at the center of it all.
Yeah, and Alana's seen firsthand what it takes to modernize operations across an entire home building business. She's here to share the real story behind that transformation. So everyone, welcome Alana to our show. So Alana, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
So I've worked in the home building industry for about a decade in various functions. Most recently made a transition to a senior solution consultant with Intellinetics, but I've played a role in some capacity in home building for a very, very long time.
Awesome. Yeah. We obviously, know you quite a bit, Alana. So I guess let's zoom out a little bit, right? For those of you that don't know you, right? Like, how have you seen, technology evolve in the home building world over the last 5 years?
You have a lot more auditing. You have a lot more transparency in your data. You can get a lot more out of it. It helps you just make really educated business decisions. You really drill down on anything from the most broad to the most granular. And I think there's maybe some apprehension about introducing new technology into the home building industry because it is an industry that's been around for so long, such a long period of time. So I think there may be a little apprehension, especially maybe for those that are deep rooted in the home building industry. But overall, just a tremendous impact.
No, and I think that's fair to say. When you say deep rooted, I experience that all the time, honestly, when we're trying to show, some old fashioned builders kind of, survey tools and homeowner portals. It's an app that goes on someone's phone and they're just like, what is this? So we don't they're using like a Motorola flip phone still. So it's just like trying to show them what could be possible. And, then once they implement it and they fully buy in, it's like, wow, this is like making things so much easier, saving us a lot of time. But
bring it into the 21st century.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we have. That's what we're trying to do in the home building space. But to kind of segue, when you kind of have a soiled system, in terms of, when something's not working or an implementation hasn't gone well, what's that like on a day-to-day basis? Like, it obviously makes things a lot harder, but what are some other challenges that you could face?
Yeah, I think when things don't go according to the plan, which, I mean, how often does that really happen? But you have to just be willing to pivot and be open to having a flexible mindset, to recognizing where the issue started and then what you need to do to overcome. So I think it has an impact on the overall maybe morale of the project, the overall feeling about the project, but steering the ship in the right direction can change that just as dramatically. So yeah, I think it's just about maybe understanding the full value and committing to what you're going to gain, committing to that benefit. And once you're there, it's just, how do we achieve the goal? Even if it didn't hit the timeline or you had to overcome a couple of hurdles, committing to that goal, getting through the discomfort, just to get to that goal, it's imperative.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. And I hear it a lot where someone will say there's one person on our team that just isn't buying into the system, and they're not they don't want to use the homeowner portal. They don't want to upload documents there. What's your suggestion? I hear it very frequently. So what would you suggest, and what have you kind of done when you've been experiencing things like that?
Yeah, so I think there's a tone where when it comes from the entire executive group, when it is a company-wide decision that the expectation is we're going to move forward with this, and this is the example, this is how we're going to do it, these are the resources available for you. I think having that consistency and dedication to the project is absolutely key. But for that one person or that group, those group of people that maybe don't want to make the transition, they're a little more hesitant to step forward. I think it's maybe connecting with them, and really understanding from their perspective the why. I mean, I had an experience with that with a transition recently where we were bringing new users in and there was some reluctance to change and really maybe not understanding the full scope of why. And it was resolved with a one-on-one conversation. So we had an example, pulled up the program, and this is how, step by step, and the reason why this is beneficial and how you get here. And so having that transparency was key, and listening, but with the understanding that we're going to hit the goal, we're going to move forward, so
Cool.
Listening and understanding, but still with that commitment.
No, nice. So you're just saying with some open communication as well, and I think that just goes a long way. And I feel like that sometimes gets forgotten about in bigger companies, and things just kind of happen and people are just like, hey, you got to do this, and they're just like, why? So I feel like that's important to communicate. I think since COVID, home buyer expectations have shifted and changed.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're communicating with your homeowners, what made you kind of rethink how you're engaging with them and what needed to change since, the post-pandemic, let's call it?
Yeah, so having those resources, that direct feedback from buyers, it's essential, and it really helped drive changes in options in process that were of tremendous value. So just listening, I think from the buyer perspective, builders do this every day. So it's not a new thing for them to sell a house, build a house, close a house. But for your home buyers, it's a unique experience to them. So really absorbing their experience and seeing how that trends across a broader group is pivotal information. It's really it's helped define smoother processes. It's helped evaluate offers, the things that we offer. In fact, one of the questions that I'm familiar with that was asked on the survey was about the buyer's experience with lenders. So many builders have preferred lenders, and there's incentives associated with using that lender. But to remain a preferred lender, we want to make sure that the lender is working just as hard for the buyer as the buyer is working to close that home. And having the feedback about those preferred lenders and the buyer's experience, making sure that, as we discussed before, that there was that collaboration and that communication, it really helped identify who was a strong partner in that department and where we needed improvement. And then it even went beyond that into like the association base, property management base and things like that, making sure that homeowner orientation was comprehensive enough for the homeowner to feel like they had comfort and like they had enough knowledge about what was expected of them as homeowners.
Right.
That'd be cool. And sure, when we talk about the expectations and the surveys that you guys were sending out, that was one of our questions that we're looking at revising, just because homeowner, like, that question is kind of ambiguous now, because we have builders in Florida who are selling a home for like 300,000-400,000, maybe even more, and then here in Ontario that same home is selling for 1.2 1.3 million. So it's hard to have a benchmark for something that could be so different. So it's something we're looking at, and I'll turn it to Bryan next, but just to let everyone else know that's tuning in, that's something we've noticed as well on our end.
Getting the surveys in their hands was something that was drilled into the internal processes. So from the time that they sign, not even before that, before contract signing, it was really at the time that they're a prospect. The sales agents are coaching that homebuyers can expect to receive a survey and what their input provides, so the value of their input and their response, and providing information about the portal, which connects right to the survey. So it increases the likelihood of somebody completing the survey when it's easily accessible. So it's promoted from the time that a buyer expresses interest in the community, and then followed through during the entire building process. So superintendents were reminding buyers to expect a survey at closing, and this is what you can expect to receive. This is what we gain from it. And then at the 1 year, at the anniversary, the same thing. The warranty representatives through that 1 year period were reaching out to homeowners and scheduling regular communication with them. And then during that communication, encouraging them to use their portal to complete the survey. And again, highlighting the importance of the data that we were pulling out of that survey. So yeah, really getting it in front of them was an important piece of the pie. I guess it was an important resource, you know, making sure that everybody was on the same page, that it was something that should be referenced and regularly referenced to confirm that buyers would respond to it. And then as far as the detail that we received from it, that's reviewed monthly and then quarterly, and then a summary on a yearly basis. So all of that information is compiled. The reporting tools through Customer Insight are absolutely phenomenal. So it's reviewed on a regular basis. There's a lot of automated reporting that gets sent out. So it's very, very robust in the reporting tools that are available. So yeah, all of that information is compiled and reviewed and then used to make decisions down the line, even from like what amenities were to be included in the community.
Right. Gotcha.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and taking a look at the bigger picture, you know, we always see new digital tools being adopted, you know, in any industry. When we look at Homeowner Central, which is our homeowner portals, you know, helps you manage service requests, share documents with homeowners. It's a mobile app homeowners can download on their phones. How do you see that shaping the future of kind of homeowner relations in you know, the home building industry? Do we think it's something that's going to, you know, every builder is going to offer a homeowner portal, or
every builder certainly should. Yeah.
It should.
Yeah.
But do you see it? Do you see it going that way? Like, you know, with all the pushback sometimes builders get from, you know, being transformative and, you know, adapting to these new tools. Do you see it potentially, you know, being a standardized, like, you know, mostly every builder who's building over 15, 20 homes is using an ERP of some sorts to manage everything. Do you think every builder is going to be eventually shifting to a homeowner portal?
Absolutely. I think that it's absolutely the direction that we're going in. So think about who's buying homes at this point. What are the demographics like? These are probably not even millennials. It's got to be, it may be late millennial, Gen Z. These are people that grew up with technology. Technology is not a foreign concept to them. There's an app for everything. I don't think anybody in that demographic even like has a checkbook. There's nothing paper at all. Everything is digitalized.
Yeah.
So builders may not be, you know, especially we talked about that, you know, the people that are deep rooted in the industry and that sort of history that you know expands over decades, where maybe the people that have been in that industry for so long and that are the owners and the developers and so on may not have that familiarity with tech, but the people that are buying do. So that yes, there's an app for everything. The homeowner portal is another phenomenal tool. It's also referenced throughout the process, like I mentioned before, as a use for connecting with the surveys. So I think it is something that everybody will migrate to if they have not already. I think it's just another tool in the available arsenal to make buyers feel comfortable and connected, because you can access that from anywhere. You maybe you're on vacation and you get an alert from your house sitter that something went wrong, you know, right from your phone, you're sending a service request and that's taken care of. It's peace of mind.
For sure. And, you know, if I can add a story to that, like I bought a home not too long ago. The water heater completely just broke down on me where we didn't have warm water. And you know, I live in Toronto myself, so it gets pretty cold down here. You know, my wife and I, we were just trying to find, you know, the manuals, right? Like, where the heck is the manual to fix this problem? And just thinking kind of PTSD right now. But had we had an app somewhere where we could have had something like a focal point to go to,
Right.
easy access, that would have been so awesome. So
It
I
would
think
have.
I think you know a guy.
yeah,
I think you know a guy that can help you with that.
I do know a
So
guy.
I live in a home that uses the homeowner portal. And so when we moved in, all of our manuals, I can tell you where they are. They're stuffed in a drawer that, it's like the junk drawer. It has just a bunch of
Exactly.
stuff. I'm
Yeah.
not sorting through it. It's there, but it's much
Yeah.
easier. I can go right to my water heater and be like, how do I fix it? Who do I
Exactly.
call? Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. For sure. Alana, you have a lot of insights, as far as, you've talked about customer experience, you've talked about, all these different tools that you've kind of leveraged. Wanted to kind of shift a little bit from the customer's front door to more so on the job site. Again, you kind of have had experiences throughout your career at different areas. So, wanted to get into, optimizing field operations, right? So I guess first question for you that would be great for our listeners, when it comes to field operations, right? What inefficiencies kind of stood out before you had adopted like real-time tools? We talked about, still builders out there doing things with pen and paper, right? Like what inefficiencies stood out before, having real tools in place?
So I can tell you the buyers would always, without fail, doesn't matter how many signs we put up or how many gates were up, the buyers would come to the property and want to walk through their home because they wanted an update, they wanted a status update, they wanted to see what was going on. So obvious, it's dangerous, right? You can't go walking through a construction site without having somebody with you that has the proper tools that can tell you if it's safe to visit the site that day or walk through the home that day. Make sure you're not interrupting any trades that are in there, laying tile or drywalling, things like that, so dangerous. It's it's inopportune, it's trespassing in some cases, so having the transparency between the superintendent and the buyer was pivotal. It was incredible. And real-time updates with the photos that to connect to the milestones so they could see their schedule visually. They could have that right in front of them and not have to worry about any type of danger or warnings or anything like that by visiting the site. So the schedule was up there, the milestones were up there, and the progress pictures were uploaded. And then the homeowners were notified of it too. So it was, the system was set up so that homeowners got an alert and said, okay, well now, this is available, check on your portal, take a look. So again, communication, collaboration, and transparency.
Absolutely, for sure. That's on the I guess the homeowner side, right? Like now, how do real-time tools impact more so on the builder side, like the communication between your field teams and employees that are kind of primarily working in the office? Did you see any kind of big shifts there?
Yeah, so there's communication tools. So the superintendents can provide detail back to the sales team. So the sales team is going to be in communication with the buyer throughout the entire process. They don't just disconnect as soon as a contract is signed. So having that communication from the super back over to the sales team really helped the sales team deliver timely messages, really helped the sales team deliver quality service to their buyers and reassure them that they were in it with them, that they had that sort of camaraderie and support. And I think that was really important for the buyers to know that for the buyers to know that they had support from the sales team and from the construction team, but then also as a company for the company to have that sort of connection and communication back and forth and transparency into what each other were doing and status updates, things like that. Really, really important.
That's awesome.
When we talk about warranty, and Alana, I know, when you're using Homeowner Central, so in Ontario here, we have something called Tarion. So a lot of our customers here in Ontario, they kind of just shut down the whole service section and have homeowners submit their service requests to Tarion, or then Tarion shares them in Newstar. It's a whole different process up here. But everywhere else in North America, it's kind of up to the builder to kind of decide how they want to manage their warranty. So with Homeowner Central and the homeowner portal, could you kind of compare, if you remember how you guys manage your warranty before onboarding Homeowner Central to how you guys, started using it with Homeowner Central and how it kind of changed things?
Are you familiar with the term square peg, round hole?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think anybody should be.
Yeah. So using an application for a solution that the application wasn't designed for, and that's how warranty was managed before using the homeowner portal and centralizing how service tickets were entered and followed through on. So yeah, it was the best that I think could have been done with the resources that were available, but it was definitely not an ideal scenario. There was very little transparency. I keep going back to transparency, but I don't know that there's a better word. It just wasn't a very functional solution. So the homeowner portal really changed that. Having a centralized resource for everyone, from the homeowner to the warranty representative, all the way through to the executive team, to really drill down on some of those trending items, those repetitive warranty issues, those warranty claims, to identify ways that could be improved, even from the vendor standpoint. Okay, well, if this vendor consistently has these claims, is that something that we need to work out with them?
Nice. And then obviously I hear people here, and I'll hear customers all the time, and they're like, we get some service requests and we don't even have to go on site. We just, create the work order because they're submitting pictures, and it's coming in with the deficiency codes that you already have within Newstar. So it's like it's all ready to go. It's primed, and you just send it off, and yeah. So I mean, when we're talking about technology and once again all these drawbacks, it actually helps us segue into our next section, which is, change is daunting and no one likes change, but it's sometimes, most of the time, for the better. So when you guys were looking at Homeowner Central and Customer Insight, and obviously even other products and other technologies, what were some of the biggest reservations you guys had about digitizing them?
Change is hard. Change is hard. Yeah. We have said it a number of times that people are creatures of habit, so they want to stick with what's comfortable, but that's not improving anything. That's just keeping everything copacetic, and you don't improve when you have that type of scenario. So improvement requires discomfort in some cases, and you have to get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. That's just the way that it goes. So with any type of change.
Yeah, and I feel like even with us and our jobs and our careers, I tell like my colleagues all the time, my boss even, once I get comfortable, I kind of want something new to kind of do, just because it's not getting any benefit. Like, I'm just status quo, and you should always be trying to make yourself uncomfortable. So
absolutely. That's where growth comes from. That's where growth comes from. Exactly. There's always room for improvement.
Being comfortable is definitely not somewhere that you kind of want to be at for a long period of time. So I think it would be great for our listeners to know, like, you've obviously been in a position where you've kind of pushed some of this technological changes within the organization. Like, how did you go about gaining buy-in from stakeholders when you were going about this process?
So I think it's just determining the risk versus the reward. So really being able to quantify the benefits. I think it doesn't always come down to numbers, but they play a large role, and being able to demonstrate the financial return. And sometimes that even comes from a time perspective, areas that technology improves should and in most cases do. I mean, in all cases that I know of, they improve by reducing the amount of time that somebody spends on a task. So considering that, when you consider what the reward of moving forward with that is an important tool to have.
Yep.
It is a significant part of the conversation in making transition.
Right. And I love that, yeah, that you touched on, what we like to term here ROI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really, initially it might seem like, wow, why are we spending this and this on such thing? But really, once you look at the risk and reward, and you
Mm-hmm.
really look at where you're really improving, it might not necessarily be printed like right in front of you on a paper, but you're gaining time here, you're improving efficiencies here, right?
Absolutely.
So all of that sort of embeds together and gives you a much better day-to-day life going forward. So
Yeah.
so
It's not
I mean,
black
yeah,
and white. You have to look at the whole spectrum. Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. So I guess, like, how has digitization improved your team's ability to really adapt to new projects and market demands? Like,
So I think having all of the information available with the press of a button is something that I don't think you could really measure the value of that appropriately, because it's just invaluable. It's so crucial to every business to have all of the data available. And not only that, but know how to look through it, know how to analyze the information that you've received. So digitalizing things like homeowner surveys and the warranty process and the homeowner portal, even the AP process, digitalizing all of that helps you get the full picture. It helps you how you're going to get called out on information. You're going to get audited. That's just part of doing business. You're going to need to provide some backup data at some point to something that you found or that you were asked to look into, and having that information available immediately. How does anybody quantify? It's invaluable.
yep.
There's no other way to do business, in my opinion, because who wants to spend time looking through paper copies and all of the resources associated with filing and organizing? You have it all available at the push of a button, and you can sort it, you can filter it, you can find it. It's the only way to move forward in business.
If we could just end off here with one piece of advice you could give to a builder who's hesitant about change, or an owner of a company that doesn't want to change anything, very quickly, what would you tell them?
I would say that there's no growth in comfort, so challenge that and reap the reward.
Perfect.
That's awesome. Short and simple. That's how I like it.
That's it. And before we end things off, Alana, we just wanted to, thank you so much for being here. You've taken us on such an amazing journey, from the backbone of builder tech to improving homebuyer experiences, optimizing the field, and even future-proofing operations.
Absolutely. And, for our listeners, if you took one thing away from today's conversation, let it be this: digital transformation isn't necessarily about tools. It's about better outcomes, better people, and more importantly, building smarter.
Yeah. And also, if you want to catch more conversations like this, just keep watching the Power to Build show. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like it, give us a follow on Spotify and YouTube, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.